This week we'll be running a variety of online sessions, taking place every evening until Thursday the 30th, to give you the opportunity to find out more about Master's Study at the Institute of Continuing Education. Course information sessions like this one, covering a range of courses in our Master's portfolio, will be taking place at 6:30 to 7:15 every evening, followed by a series of panel sessions from 7:30 to 8:15, with our students, academics, and representatives from matriculated colleges. In addition to our live sessions, we also have a number of video resources on our website, giving you further information on funding options, the application process, college matriculation, student support, and interview preparation. And if you missed any of our sessions or you can't attend live, then you can watch the recordings, which will be available on our website 24 hours after each event. Links to events and resources are shared in the chat and will be also available via email after this session. So a little bit about ICE. We were established 150 years ago in 1873, meaning we were the first university-led continuing education provider in the world. Today, we offer a wide range of courses to adult learners, including short online and residential weekend courses, international summer programs, and award-bearing part-time undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications, covering a number of subject areas, from archaeology to writing for performance. We also act as the admitting body for all Master of Studies courses within the University of Cambridge, with our master's students becoming members of a Cambridge college upon commencement of their course. So ICE is a place where professional networks are formed, friendships are made, and the transformative power of learning is recognized. So a little bit about the college partnerships. Once you've accepted an offer, you'll become a member of a University of Cambridge college. This will grant you the same level of support as a full-time university student. Now, as well as having access to standard college resources, you'll be allocated a college tutor who is responsible for your welfare and pastoral support. Your college will also confirm arrangements such as your university card, matriculation, and graduation events. We work with a number of different colleges across our MSt courses. And for the MSt in History specifically, we work closely with Lucy Cavendish, Selwyn, and Wolfson colleges. You can state a preference for any of these three colleges when you apply. Note that it isn't normally possible to become a member of another Cambridge college unless you have a pre-existing affiliation with them. You can watch our informative video or join the Meet the Colleges panel session this evening at 7:30 for more information on our college partnerships and to hear from the colleges themselves. So a little bit about today's session. We're delighted to have a number of panelists on the session today. Professor Samantha Williams is the Academic Director for History at ICE and the Course Director for this MSt, and you'll be hearing from her shortly. We're also delighted to have one of our current students, Marie Gallagher, myself and Lydia from the admin team, Lucy from the enrollments team, and Kate from our marketing team. In a moment, we'll take you through what you can expect from the MSt in History, including entry requirements, teaching style, module content, and assessment. We'll then pass on to Marie so she can talk about her experience of being one of our students. Our enrollment team will take you through what kind of support we can provide during the application. And we've reserved time at the end of this session to answer your questions. So please do send us your questions for any members of the team via the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen at any point throughout the presentation. I'll hand over now to the course director, Professor Samantha Williams.
Hello, welcome to this webinar on the MSt in History. An MSt in History is the same as a full-time MPhil, but it's over 2 years, which is what makes it an MSt rather than an MPhil. It's aimed at those who are wishing to take a master's degree in history. The standard way in to applying to come and do the MST is to have a history or a humanities or social science related undergraduate BA honours degree, 2-1 or above. But we do also have a non-standard route for those applicants who have a degree in another subject or who might not already have a BA at all before they apply. So as I said, it's over 2 years, it's part-time. And this cohort is commencing in October of 2024. Sorry, that's supposed to say 3 modules, including a dissertation. So the 3 residential teaching blocks over year 1, 3 day schools in year 2. And these are all held in Cambridge. The qualification amounts to 180 credits at MST level. And the application deadline is the 28th of February, 2024. So in a few months' time. Next slide, please. Thanks. So in terms of course content, what will you be studying? So these are the 3 modules. The first module was called Approaches to History, and you've got the dates there in October. And students are introduced to a range of approaches to history. I'll show you a indicative programme for each of the 3 modules in a moment. So you've got some idea of the kinds of things that we mean when we discuss approaches to history. The second will focus more on sources. By that we mean primary sources. So documentary sources, original sources that were created at the time in whatever period. Methods, the kind of methods that historians might use. And again, I'll show you an indicative timetable that gives you an idea of what those sorts of methods and the sort of research skills that are employed by historians and that you would learn in that module. And again, you've got the dates there in February. And then module 3. So these are 1 per term. So module 3 is an Easter term. And that's when we get to the sort of nitty-gritty thinking about theory that historians employ to try and interpret what they're seeing in their primary sources. Might also be conceptual. They go hand in hand, theory and concepts. And then thinking about historiography, although you'll think about historiography in all 3 modules. Historiography is what other historians have written on a particular either topic, place, theory, concept, method. So it will be looking and we call that secondary sources. So historiography is another term for the secondary sources that historians have written using primary sources. And to some extent in all 3 modules, because we can't teach you all global history over time and space, most of them take thematic topics. And most of the themes are by the guest lecturers that we get to come in. So it's based on their own research on the books and articles that they've been writing. And they will introduce you to whatever topic it is through the theme that they also research themselves, so that you get experts in the field who are teaching you. So if we could move on, please, Jonathan. So this gives you module 1, again, indicative course content, the kinds of things that we've been offering recently in the past year or 2. So module 1 is slightly longer than modules 2 and 3 because we want to provide some skills to get you started and to introduce you to Cambridge. So you'll have an introduction to the course. You'll have somebody come from one of the Cambridge colleges to talk you through what college membership will mean for you and the benefits that you can gain through being matriculated to a Cambridge college. Library skills, very important. One of the librarians comes in to teach that and to teach you how to use, I discover the university library catalogue and the various databases. There are other skills sessions, so looking at the plagiarism software that the university employs, showing you how to use it, an essay workshop. There's one of those in every module, so that you are given expert guidance on how to write the best essay for each module. Then you have the more thematic topics that we were talking about, and these were the approaches. So history and science, social and cultural history, political history. That might be the kind of history most people are familiar with. It's what tends to be taught, particularly at A-level. in Britain anyway. Biography in history, there's plenty of biographies of important, in particular, political figures in history. Environmental history, economic, thinking about empire, lots of different empires, that particular session looked at. And then thinking about the local history, and then urban history, which are sort of two sides of the same sort of coin, different sides of the same coin. One which is much more microscopic, and then one which is slightly bigger. Okay, next slide, please. So this is thinking about approaches, sources, and methods. So qualitative history, by that we mean mainly looking at texts and words and language in documents. Images, so this could be any image. Last time we were looking at photography in the 20th century. Material culture, so that's things, stuff, the stuff that you have in your house, objects, and what they might teach us in history. Again, another skills session looking at online resources and reference of numbers. It tends to go hand in hand with economic history. Archaeology and history, so this is stuff again, but this is sort of what's being dug up and how that might help you think about history, particularly earlier history. Oral history, if you're doing interviews with people who within living memory in the later 20th and early 21st century, how might you go about doing oral histories? So that's partly somebody talking about how they did it themselves, and then partly giving you advice on good practice. Intellectual history, that's again like political history, the kind of history that might have be more familiar to you. So big ideas in history. Early modern culture, so what is culture, and how might it have been different in early modern Britain, for instance? So there might be religious culture or popular culture, going to the pub. Then there's a session which thinks really closely about a specific set of primary sources, so love letters, and the culture of writing and putting love letters in the post. This is middle-class courtship, so delightful particular session, that one. And then again, like I said, thinking about an essay workshop and how you might go about improving on essay 1 for essay 2, and also some advice on how to write the essays that have been set for that particular module. Okay, move on, please, Jonathan. So thinking about indicative content of module 3, so thinking about theory and concepts, memory, how quite a lot of history, of course, is about memory, as well as, say, heritage, how people remember what they remember, how that might be shaped politically. The Annales School, this was a particular approach in history from the early 20th century, largely French in origin, that had a profound influence on how history was done all over the world. So it's thinking about the sort of history of social history in particular, although it's not only social, it branched out in all sorts of ways. Religion, really important to almost all studies of history, of course. So thinking about religion and how important that might be theoretically or conceptually in particular places. Time, the history, time has a history. It's not straightforward. People have thought about time in very different ways, again, over time and space, and really, really interesting to think about how time and human ideas about time have changed. The book, so the history of the book, that's again globally, and that's a thing, that's material culture as well. Race and gender, profoundly important for lenses through which we might think about history. Poverty, the theory of poverty, how might that have changed? This is my particular field, from the 16th century to the present day, and in terms of theory, how sociologists have constructed ideas of poverty. Someone comes and talks about Middle Eastern history. Someone else comes and talks about, this is early modern law, which looks quite different, and the law courts looked very different. How that relates to the state and the state, what we call state formation, so that it comes to look like the state that we recognise in the 20th century. Someone last time came to talk about the history of Ireland and nationalism as the prism through which he was thinking about Irish history. And then again, there's that essay workshop, so that you can improve on essays 1 and 2, and you can think about the best way to approach the final essay of year 1. Okay, thanks, Jonathan. So in year 2, there's the 3-day schools there that are given, the dates, when you're expected to attend. And at each of those, the students in the group present to one another. So they have 10 minutes where they can write whatever they've been recently working on, they write a presentation on, and then they have 10 minutes of questions and answer session from the floor, from your peers, from other students. And then at the end of each day, we have a dissertation workshop. So in October, it's on research design, analysis, evaluation of sources and methods. So this is about designing your dissertation to your best advantage. The January one is about making sure your topic fits with what other historians have already written, hence the historiography. And then the third one is the nuts and bolts of writing up the dissertation and submission. Thanks, Jonathan. And this is just to give you some ideas. You probably won't have much time to read all of these. There's 2 slides. This is just to give you, we accept any topic as long as we can secure an expert dissertation supervisor. This draws on the Faculty of History, but also some of the other faculties in Cambridge. For instance, Polis, so the politics department, and there are a number of research groups where academics are based. So we've got quite a large pool of expert supervisors, but we do need an expert supervisor to be able to admit you so that you get the best experience out of being supervised for the dissertation. So that's a few titles that we've had fairly recently. And if you move on, please, Jonathan. Oh, yeah, so it's just one. Sorry, I thought there were 2. So you can have a look back through those at your leisure when you look at the recording for just some sense of the range of dissertations that have been undertaken recently. So how to apply? So there's an online university's applicant portal. It all has to be done that way. There are sections on the form. It's quite a long form. On your academic history and your qualifications to date, like we've mentioned, 2-1 in humanities or social science subject, but we have this non-standard route as well, and there's more information about that on the website. You'll need to be able to provide evidence of proficiency in English. There's room to upload your CV. There are course-specific questions about the amount of experience you already have in history and what you hope to learn from doing the course. You'll be asked to upload any transcripts and certificates proving qualifications you already possess. You'll be asked for the names of 2 academic referees. If you are a professional and you don't have academic referees, if it's been a very long time since you last studied, or you're unable to provide academic references, for instance, because you don't hold a BA already, it's possible to ask for professional references, but we would prefer academic ones where possible. And then a statement of intended research, also called a research proposal. I'll talk you through that in a slide in a moment. And then a sample of work. So I would provide a single sample or a couple of samples, shorter pieces of your best work. It has to be between 10 and 20 pages. I think we usually say of the equivalent of a 3rd year undergraduate piece, if you have that. If you don't have that, we have essay titles and reading lists on the website so that you can write one for this application. Okay, thanks, Jonathan. So the research proposal, this statement of intended research, this is the single most important piece of the application. So if you're going to be work hard on the whole application, but work the hardest on this particular document. So it should state clearly the intended area, i.e. the place in the world of research, the chronological period. So it might be longer or shorter depending on the topic. How the research then contributes to the existing historiography. So we mean by that, where is the gap in what other historians have already written that you're hoping to fill, and how it will build on what other historians have done. And then this is really important, the primary sources, those original documents that you might consult. Even better if you've been online and looked at some online catalogues so that you know the kinds of things you want to look at actually exist. Don't underestimate how much has been lost and that lots of records don't survive. So this needs to be between 600 and 1,000 words in length. So the chronological period needs to be appropriate for the research question. And we advise that a very long chronological period is avoided. You can't possibly do 200 or 300 years worth of history in 16 to 20,000 words in a year. So keep it, I mean, 100 years usually at most, but for some topics, I don't know if you're doing something extremely modern and high politics, you might only want 20 years. You might only want 5 years. So it's got to be appropriate to the research question and the body of primary sources. If there are a lot of primary sources, you might have to rein in the chronological period. You probably have to narrow down the number of sources you look at. If there are fewer sources, you've got the potential then to go out in terms of your chronology, to have a broader one. So you need to know what's already been written by other historians in secondary literature. Try and be up to date. Don't only have read things that are 20 or 30 years old, so that you already know what other historians have written, as well as what was going on at the time, the national or global context. So as I said, a really strong proposal would indicate the primary sources you're likely to consult and that you know survive. And you can strengthen it further by adding a bibliography of the primary sources and the archives that they're in, and a list of the secondary sources that you've read. And there are examples, I think there are 2, on the website, so that you've got some sense of what a strong proposal looks like. Okay, next slide. So the process, apply by the 28th of February. There'll then be a period of shortlisting. If we would like to take your application forward, we'll invite you to interview. Everybody has to come for an interview if they're going to be offered a place, and the dates are on there. And then at that point, we'd indicate that we would like to be able to offer you a place, but as I said, we need an expert supervisor secured before we can do that. So at that point, we send the application out to potential supervisors, and it might not, the first person might not be able to do it. They might be on sabbatical leave. They might already have too many students, for instance. So we might have to send it to more than one person, but we'll keep you informed informally about how that process is going. And then once we get to that point, we might be able to make you a formal offer. Okay, next slide, please, Jonathan.
Just to point out that, of course, there is an error there. It should say the 28th of February, 2024, not 2025.
Oh, yes, there's
Apologies
another
for
error.
that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. So we've invited, it's very kind of Marie to come and talk to us, she's in year 2 of one of the current cohorts at the moment, and she's going to talk to you now about her experiences on the MST. Thanks, Marie.
That's great. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Marie. Thank you, Sam, and the team for asking me to say a few words about my own experience on the programme. I attended one of these sessions when I was thinking about applying, and I found it quite helpful. So hopefully I can say something that might guide your own decision-making and your application. I would just start by saying 2 things about the programme. It's tough, but it's great. Now, those 2 words may not always go together great in a sentence, but in this case, I think they really do. So what's tough about it? Well, it's Cambridge, one of the great universities of the world and one of the best places for the study of history. So I wouldn't be under any illusion that just because the program is part-time and it's through the Institute of Continuing Education that it's somehow Cambridge Light. It's not. It's taught by lecturers from the faculty, and your work is graded to the same level as the full-time master's programs. So what does that actually mean? It means that for each piece of work you submit, and in year one, you submit 3 essays, as Professor Sam just said. So for each of those essays, there are 2 people grading your work, and there's blind marking all around, and you get detailed feedback from each of those graders. Now, this is where you need an extra dose of humility when you come to Cambridge, because the standards are very high, and you will be pushed to do your very best work. I had just come out of a medieval history master's in Dublin, where I live. But I have to say, I got something of a fright when I got my first graded essay back. So I thought, okay, I'm in Cambridge now, the standards are really high. But even though it's rigorous, you're being taught how to write a tightly argued, well-evidenced piece of work. So it's really elevating your academic writing and your approaches to sources and methods. So then once you've been whipped into shape in year 1, you spend year 2 working on the dissertation with your supervisor, where you get deeper into researching your particular topic. And that's where I am at the moment. My topic is one of the minor famines in Ireland in the early 19th century. And my supervisor is probably the leading expert in that field at the moment. Also in year 2, as you've heard, we come back together as a class group for day schools to stay plugged in, and where we present on our progress and take questions about where we're going with it, and maybe cry on each other's shoulders a little bit if we're struggling, but no, it's fine. It's all going to work out very well, I think, for us all. So that's the hard work side of it. What's great about it is that you have the opportunity to do that work, to research a topic you're really interested in, and with the guidance of the experts in the field, who also happen to be really nice people and great to work with. And I'm not just saying that, that's actually true. And for me, one of the most enriching parts of the program have been the residential weeks in Cambridge, when you're not only in class, but you get together around the table at mealtimes and talk to and get to know your classmates, the most interesting people from all over the world, and who have a range of experience and perspective and opinion. And this replicates for us as part-time students the college experience of being an intellectual community that learns together and eats together and debates and disagrees too, but all in a positive spirit. And even though you don't live in your college, and I matriculated into Selwyn, you're still a full member with access to all its facilities and dinners and events. And obviously you also have access to the university libraries and facilities when you're in town. So even though we're part-time students, we're still getting the full Cambridge experience, which I have to say is great. So overall then, I have to say I'm finding the program to be a great adventure. It's stimulating, rewarding, it's enjoyable. Yes, it's challenging, but if you're up for a challenge and you have a solidly crafted research proposal, well, then I would say, look, give it a go. Give it a go. I think there's no better place to do your history in. So good luck.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lucy, and I'm part of the student enrolment team here at the Institute of Continuing Education in Cambridge. I'm going to talk to you all very briefly about some of the funding support available to eligible students applying for the MSc in History, and we'll then do a whistle-stop tour on the support myself and my colleagues in the enrolment team can provide you. We know that for many adult learners, education is a financial investment. So I'm going to talk to you through some of the ways in which you can access support to help fund your study. As part of submitting your application for the MSc in History, there is a £50 application fee. The university is committed to widening access and participation to higher education, and as such, some applicants may be exempt from paying this via one of two schemes. If you have any questions about your eligibility, please do let us know. In the meantime, we will post the link in the chat for your information around exemptions to this application fee. There are a variety of external funding mechanisms in place, from part-time student loans to military funding to DSA, which is the Disabled Students Allowance. For students in the UK, the Disability Students Allowance enables students to apply for a loan if you have a disability, a mental health condition, or specifically learning differences which affects your ability to study. We're aware for some student loans that the Student Loan Company in the UK and the Sallie Mae Smart Loans in the US can typically support funding your part-time master's programs. If you are applying for the student loan funding outside of these areas, we'd recommend that you connect with your student loan provider to ensure that the course can be supported. Lastly, to enroll into the course, if you receive an offer, you will need to make a payment to enroll. We can support you in this and putting a payment plan in place if needed, as well as adding funds from your employer if they're able to sponsor you. Myself and my colleagues in the enrolment team are really excited to connect with you all and can support you in your application journey at every stage of the process. Our team have a wealth of knowledge about the Institute and the courses on offer, and we'd be more than happy to guide you and support you through any of the queries that you may have, whether this be selecting a course, discussing whether a course is suitable for you, or if you want to discuss the course's requirements in more detail. We know that the application process can sometimes be daunting, but we promise to you that this isn't the case, and we're on hand to support you through every stage if needed. We can provide information on the different stages of your application, what needs to be included and what the next steps are to make sure your process is as simple as possible for you. Our team would love to hear from you on any of the questions that you may have, and you can reach us either through our contact us form on our website. You can scan the QR code at the bottom right corner of this slide, or you can drop us an email using the enquiries email at the bottom of this slide. We look forward to hopefully hearing from you and any questions that you may have throughout the Q&A.
Thank you very much for that, Lucy. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Sam. We'd very much like to open the session up now to the Q&A. So I can see we've got a number of questions that are coming in via the Q&A function. I'd like to kick off, if I may, with a couple of questions that have come in, which I think would be best answered by Lucy and our enrolments team. So the first question we've received is, do I need to take an English language test?
Yeah, great question. Applicants for whom English is not the first language will need to submit evidence that they meet the university's English language requirement at the application stage. There is an English language calculator that you can use for general guidance around to see if you will need to provide a test, which we can actually share in the chat for you. After receiving an application, the admissions team will assess the information provided and will let you know if a test or assessment is required. If a test is required, we can accept IELTS Academic, Cambridge Certificate of Proficiency in English, which is CPE, or TOEFL, which is TOEFL, or the Cambridge Certificate in Advanced English, the CAE, and plus a language centre assessment.
Fantastic. Next question is around disability and welfare support. So the question is, as a master's student, who would I reach out to for disability or welfare support?
Yes, definitely. This is a very important question. Whilst MST students at ICE are matriculated, meaning that your college tutor and your college will be your first point of contact for support around welfare, we fully understand that all our students are individuals, and our student welfare team is more than happy to hear from the MST students, to listen and signpost, and to ensure that your experience as a student with ICE is exemplary. In addition to welfare-based support, as an MST student, you have access to a variety of disability supports throughout accessibility and disability services, which offer confidential advice and support, receive disability disclosures, and this provides support with adjustments, and can also support you with finding funding available to students with disabilities. We can also put that in the chat here.
Fantastic. And one final question before I invite Lydia to maybe read out some of the questions we've received. Question is, can I complete this course fully online?
Yeah, great question. The hybrid nature of this course is a university requirement, and therefore students will need to attend the in-person residential stays during the course. Apart from it being a requirement, participating in the master's course means that you are a member of the University of Cambridge College, part of the broader university community, and an alumni for life. Previous students have shared that the in-person sessions were an integral part of the experience, which allows them to feel connected to the Cambridge community and provided opportunities for in-person connections with their peers and academics that really has enriched their overall learning experience.
Thank you, Lucy. That's great. So Lydia, could I invite you, if you would be so kind, as to maybe read out a couple of the questions that we've received?
Yeah, we've had quite a few come in, so I'll go through them as I can. We've had a question about colleges and what aspects should be evaluated when choosing between colleges at Cambridge.
Can you answer that one, Jonathan? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Oh, sorry. Would you like to answer that, Sam, or would you like?
No, I thought you would do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a very, very good question. There are 31 colleges in Cambridge. The 3 that we've highlighted that we work with as partner colleges in a previous slide, they're all different. They would all probably claim that they are the best college in Cambridge for very good reasons. I think what I would recommend is have a look at each of the college websites. A lot of them have quite detailed information about their history, the sort of character that they have, the sort of size of the college. But it does, I think, ultimately come down to a personal preference. We can't really recommend one college over another. So I think have a look at the website. If you're able to come to Cambridge, by all means, go and visit one of the colleges and see if you can get a feel. Marie, could I just ask you, how did you go about making your choice?
Well, I had attended some of the Cambridge summer schools prior to applying to the course, and I had stayed in Selwyn because they provided accommodation and it was quite near where the lectures were happening, and I just loved the place. The atmosphere, the grounds are stunning. It's a physically beautiful location. So I thought, when I was really happy when I saw Selwyn on the list of available colleges, because I thought, that's it, that's for me. But I agree. It's very personal. It's very personal. So you can't beat that suggestion of actually coming, having a look and a walk around and just get a sense for yourself.
Yeah, and I think most of the colleges nowadays also have virtual tours that you might be able to do of their facilities. Thank you. Lydia, next question.
Thank you. So we've got a couple of questions about sort of libraries and resources. The first one is, what library and research resources are available for MST students who are not local to Cambridge?
Yeah, so you get this magic thing called a Raven password. I think it might not be called Raven anymore. with this password, you get access to all electronic resources. So almost all, not quite all, but almost all journals, there is an electronic subscription to. Lots of books now, so particularly, say, Cambridge University Press, Oxford University Press, Palgrave Macmillan. There are lots of publishing houses for which we have subscriptions to their ebooks. So you can, and we try and prioritize things on the reading list that can be got electronically. So you should always be able to do the reading for the essays that way. You when you're in Cambridge, of course, you can go and sit in the history library, faculty library, and you can borrow some books for a short time while you were studying here for the modules, and the same with the university library. Yeah, so but with the Raven password, you can get a huge amount of things now. Yeah.
Great.
Lydia, was there another one?
Thank you, Sam. Yeah,
Yeah.
just related to that, what sort of like catalogues and libraries would you recommend for searching for primary sources?
Yeah, you see, I don't think there's a one size fits all for this particular question, because people do global history topics from all over the world. There'll be hundreds of thousands of archives. So if you've got a sense of where you would like to study, there's likely to be a national archive if it's a country outside of Britain. Of course, if it's Britain, there's the National Archives. The National Archives for Britain has access to lots of other catalogues. So if you want to do a British topic, it will also show you the records that survive for other archives within Britain. So National Archives, but then there'll be local archives. There'll be county archives in this country, and there'll be the equivalent in different countries too. So I think you need to work that out depending on what exactly you want to study, which bit of the world. Okay.
Thank you. Just relating to applications as well, for a non-standard applicant without a background in history or humanities, what are the academic expectations or standards for the sample essays? One of the titles that you would provide.
Yeah, so I think we'd want that to be the equivalent of a British 2-1, so mark of over 60, at third year undergraduate level, so the final year of what would be a BA. Obviously, the higher the quality, the better, but that would be the sort of the benchmark. Yeah.
Thank you. And can applications or applicants be accepted if you can't find a supervisor?
No, I'm afraid not. No.
Thank you. Sorry, bear with me. Would a previous MPhil qualification in history from Cambridge be suitable for entry?
Yes, it would. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's open to anyone really. Will the links in the chat be available after the presentation?
Lucy or Kate, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. Kate, I think would have more knowledge on this, but yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, the session is being recorded, so they should be available.
We have a follow-up email going out to everybody that registered for the event afterwards with the recording link.
Great,
So I'm
thanks,
conscious
Kate.
of time, Lydia, so I'm just wondering if we could maybe have one or two final questions.
I noticed, Lydia, there's one about PhDs. I think that
Yes,
might
I
be
just
a good
just
one.
got to
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
After this course, can we go on to do a PhD program, or what else is available after the masters?
Yeah, so once you've got a pass in this course, many universities will accept a pass in the MSt to go on and do a PhD. At Cambridge, if you want to stay at Cambridge, they have this magic thing called leave to continue mark. So that means you have to have a mark of 70 or above. So the pass mark is 60. They want 70 or above to indicate that you would be a good candidate for doing doctoral research.
possibly one final question, Lydia, for you, if you have anything there.
They're all quite similar to ones we've had
Okay,
previously.
Well, that's lovely.
What about that one on science? That if you have a science background, I think that would be non-standard route at that point, if say you had a maths or physics undergraduate degree. So we would then be assessing people on how good the research proposal was, you know, so there are other things that we would be taking into account at that point.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We hope that you found the session informative. Thank you to all of our wonderful panelists for their contributions. We'd love to hear your thoughts via our satisfaction survey, which will be emailed to you shortly, and hope to see you at other of our MST events this week. Our Meet the Colleges session, featuring representatives from Homerton, Wolfson, Lucy Cavendish and Hughes Hall colleges, will be starting shortly at 7:30, and there is still time to register via the link in the chat. So thank you again for joining us, and a very good evening from Cambridge.